Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm diving into a school shooting case, one that was new to me and proved particularly fascinating due to the wide variation in witness accounts. I've carefully reviewed the available information and done my best to filter out any inaccuracies. However, if you notice an error or think I've missed an important detail, please leave a comment and I'll address it as soon as I can verify it. Thank you for joining me once again. Without further ado, let's get right into it. It was a quiet and ordinary morning on Friday, October 24, 2014, in Marysville, Washington, until a chilling text message shattered the calm for the Fryberg family. At 10:37 a.m., Jaylen Fryberg's relatives received a deeply unsettling message from the 15-year-old. In it, he detailed his funeral wishes, including what he wanted to be dressed in for his burial. He also asked his family to apologize to the friends and loved ones who would be affected by what was about to happen. Just minutes later, Jaylen carried out a horrific attack on a group of his closest friends. Jaylen Ray Fryberg was born on July 31, 1999. He lived with his family on the Tulalip Indian Reservation in Marysville, Washington, where he was being raised as a future leader. According to fellow tribe member John McCoy, many in the community believed Jaylen would rise through the cultural ranks. McCoy described him as having a natural charisma and raw talent that set him apart. Jaylen came from a well-known and highly respected family on the reservation. His grandfather was a member of the tribal council and served as the director of cultural and natural resources for the tribe, while his grandmother was the general manager of tribal government operations. His parents were also actively involved in the community, making it likely that Jaylen would follow in their footsteps. He had a deep appreciation for his Native American heritage and expressed a strong interest in one day becoming a leader. Beyond his cultural ties, Jaylen was known for being outgoing and friendly. He was an athlete, playing for his school's football team, and he also had an interest in wrestling, though it's unclear if he was actively competing at the time of the incident. He had a passion for the outdoors and enjoyed activities like hunting and fishing. Additionally, Jaylen was diabetic. While this detail may not seem particularly relevant to the case, it does come up later. There isn't much publicly available information about his upbringing, but based on what is known, it appears that he had a relatively typical childhood. In 7th grade, Jaylen met a girl named Shailene, who soon became his long-term girlfriend. Like any couple, they experienced ups and downs, but their relationship lasted for quite some time. Fast forward a few years, Jaylen was now 15 years old and in 9th grade, attending Marysville-Pilchuck High School. By all accounts, he had a large circle of friends and was considered popular among his peers. This brings us to the events leading up to the attack. According to Jaylen's football coach, John Mills, he had ongoing issues with another student during practice. The two did not get along, and tensions between them continued to rise. Eventually, the situation escalated when the student used racial slurs against Jaylen. Sources indicate that this student had a pattern of using racist insults, not just toward Jaylen, but toward other students as well. On October 13, 2014, after yet another argument between Jaylen and the unnamed student during practice, Coach Mills intervened, separating them and speaking with Jaylen's father. He also planned to address the situation with the other student the following day. However, before Coach Mills could intervene, Jaylen and the student got into another altercation the next day. This time, it turned physical. Jaylen ended up attacking the student, and when questioned by Coach Mills about the incident, he reportedly said, quote, "I beat the crap out of him." As a result of the fight, both Jaylen and the other student were suspended for the remainder of the week. Despite his suspension, Jaylen still attended homecoming on Friday, October 17th. That night, he was recorded being crowned homecoming prince. In the video, he appeared calm, often keeping his head down, showing no visible signs that anything was wrong. Although Shailene did not attend the same school as Jaylen, she accompanied him to the homecoming dance that evening. According to police reports, Jaylen's cousin Nate later stated that, at some point during the night, everyone returned to Jaylen's house to hang out. Eventually, only 3 people remained: Jaylen, Shailene, and an unnamed girl. At some point, Shailene walked in and found Jaylen lying in bed with the other girl. Jaylen then told Shailene to leave, saying he no longer wanted to be with her. He went on to admit that he liked the other girl and that they were planning to start a new relationship. This revelation caused Jaylen to become upset, and she stormed out of the house. According to official police reports, Jaylen and the other girl began talking several days prior. By October 15th, investigators determined that the two had started a relationship. Despite their efforts to keep it hidden, their connection eventually came to light. Jaylen's cousin, Nate, later recalled that Jaylen and the girl had engaged in, quote, stuff that night. The next day, Jaylen expressed regret over his actions and wanted to reconcile with Jaylen, but she refused to speak to him. Since Jaylen and Jaylen attended different schools, most of their communication took place over text. Their text conversation on October 19th unfolded as follows. At 3 a.m., Jaylen sent Jaylen a message that read, "I hate you." A few minutes later, she followed up with, "I hate you so much." Jaylen responded, "This is your fault, not mine." The next day, on October 20th at 12:37 p.m., Jaylen texted Jaylen, "Are you really telling people that blank ruined our relationship?" When she didn't reply, he sent another message moments later. "Huh?" At 1 p.m., he wrote, quote, "Just talk to me real quick. Is that really what you're telling people? 'Cause I'm not at school, but people here are asking me what's going on and how blank messed things up. Might as well get your story straight and tell everyone you're a psycho. Tell them you tried choking me and threw some punches, 'cause that's really why I broke up with you. I would have been fine staying with you, but you just went crazy. So please, if you're going to talk, at least tell the truth. Don't try to make this all my fault, or blank's fault. It's yours. I'll post this on Facebook if you want, because you're really making me mad. I was going to leave you alone and not say a single word about you, and you should do the same. So please, I'd like to not hear my name coming out of your mouth." Jaylen continued, "Not trying to be rude, but this is what you're telling people. I was going to let this slide until you assumed that blank and I were doing something just because we were lying close to each other. Then you went psycho, and that's when I decided I was done. So get your story straight. Bye." Jaylen still did not respond. At 1:09 p.m., Jaylen sent another message, quote, "All right, whatever. I won't talk to you. I just hope you tell the damn truth from now on." Hours later, at 4 p.m., he reached out again, quote, "All right, can we talk? I bet right now you're at the point where you're like, I don't want nothing to do with him, and I get that, but can we talk real quick?" Then Jaylen wrote, "I don't want to talk about getting back together if that's what you're thinking, and I bet you're talking to someone, so I'll just leave that be." 9 minutes later, he sent another message, quote, "Just tell me you don't want to talk, damn. Don't just hit me with no response." At this point, Jaylen still hadn't replied, and Jaylen continued sending messages in an apparent attempt to get her attention. Later that evening, around 9 p.m., he texted, quote, "Okay, why'd you tell everyone that blank and I were lying in bed and you walked in on us?" He followed up with another message, "No, for real. Why?" Jaylen continued messaging into the early hours of the next day. At 1:12 a.m., he wrote, quote, "Just please talk me out of this. The gun's in my hand. Please." Approximately 5 hours later, Jaylen finally responded with a single word, "Jay." Jaylen immediately replied, "What?" It wasn't until hours later, at 9:21 a.m., that Jaylen responded with a long message which read, quote, "Yeah, don't text me, ever. Don't call me in the middle of the night saying all this, and then tell me you're letting me go the next day. So no, do not ever talk to me. Don't text me at all. I can't believe you. I'm done forever. Don't miss me. Don't want me back, ever, because I'm done." 9 minutes later, she sent another message which read, quote, "I hope you understand that you are never getting me back, and I'm not going to be here for you any longer. I'm out, all the way out. Done. I'm never believing anything you said. You've done enough damage, and I would appreciate it if you just left me alone. Good job, Jay, and thank you for making this a lot easier for me. Have a good life." At 9:32 a.m., just 2 minutes later, Jaylen responded, quote, "I'm done hurting you. All the times I hurt you, you know I didn't mean to. You know it. So please, just stop. Just talk to me. Please." Jaylen immediately replied, "Number you, stop hurting me. Stop hurting me over and over and over. Just stop." An argument followed. but much of it was rambling and not particularly significant. Later that evening, at 7:37 p.m., after more fighting and repeated ignored messages from Jaylen, Jaylen wrote, quote, "And no one will make you feel the way I make you feel. I love you so damn much, it's crazy, and it's going to kill us to see each other with other people, and I'll tell you right now, I will. But I won't care that you and blank are together, and when I see him, he's still gonna get his for what he did. What my bro said he wouldn't do. He will die. Then you'll see he ain't blank. I'm sorry for everything. I really am. I love you though. I really do. More than anyone in the damn world." The argument continued, ending with Jaylen saying, "Okay, well, don't bother coming to my funeral." Shortly after, he sent another chilling message which read, "Okay, good, I will kill him." There isn't much context for this message, so it's unclear what prompted it. The names in the texts are redacted, making it difficult to determine exactly who Jaylen was referring to. However, the fact that he called the person bro suggests he was talking about someone he was very close with, possibly even his cousin Andrew. That said, take this with a grain of salt, as it's not confirmed. I'll explain why I suspect this in a bit. The following day, Jaylen sent multiple messages to Jaylen, all of which went unanswered. Frustrated, he ultimately sent her a chilling text quote. "I set the date. Hopefully you regret not talking to me. You have no idea what I'm talking about, but you will. Bang bang, I'm dead." The next day, October 23rd, Jaylen continued sending messages throughout the day. They read, "Meet me by the cafeteria after school so I can say bye. Going to need to call you at some point, and I hope you answer. Hope you read my messages tomorrow. Love you. I need you to read all of my texts tomorrow. Can you do that?" At 9:17 a.m., Jaylen posted his final tweet, which read, quote, "It won't last, it'll never last." Then came the morning of October 24th. Jaylen continued messaging Jaylen. "Morning, this saddens me." He also sent an unknown picture with the caption, "Goddamn." His text continued, quote, "Just please read my messages today, okay? Please, thank you." His final message to Jaylen was sent at 6:55 a.m. She never responded. At some point, Jaylen finally blocked Jaylen's number, cutting off all communication. However, Jaylen was not happy about this, so instead, he began reaching out to her cousin to try and contact her. It was clear that Jaylen and Jaylen had been having serious issues recently, and not just about what had supposedly happened on homecoming night. There were also rumors that Jaylen's cousin Andrew may have been involved. While the exact nature of the situation is unclear, some of Jaylen's tweets around that time suggest that Andrew might have been flirting with either Jaylen or another girl Jaylen was involved with, or possibly had a crush on, such as the girl from homecoming. None of Jaylen's tweets mention Andrew by name, but many sources point to Andrew as the source of growing tension, which was also the rumor circulating at school. Some of Jaylen's tweets included, quote, "Did you forget she was my girlfriend? Dude, she tells me everything, and now I hate you. You're no longer my brother." Jaylen and Andrew had been incredibly close, often referring to each other as brothers because of their tight bond. If Andrew had indeed done what most sources suggest, it would have devastated Jaylen, considering how much he valued their relationship. As far as I can tell, there is no concrete evidence to support this theory, aside from the redacted texts, but it remains a widely circulated rumor. According to Jaylen's cousin, Nate, in the days following the homecoming dance, Jaylen was frequently posting on Snapchat. When asked about the specifics of the posts, Nate recalled that most of them were about his girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend, and that Jaylen was saying reckless things, including statements about how he, quote, "might as well just die." Concerned, Nate reached out to check on Jaylen, to which Jaylen responded, quote, "Yeah bro, everything's fine." Jaylen was also posting unsettling messages on his Twitter account, which provided insight into his emotional state at the time. However, according to Nate, the Snapchat posts were even more concerning. His Twitter activity remained relatively normal until mid-June 2014, when his posts began to take a darker turn. On June 18th, he tweeted a series of messages, including, quote, "Don't talk to you? Okay, that's what I was doing. Last night wasn't that hard. You're starting to piss me off. You're so brave. Just remember, this is it. No more. The next day, on June 19th, he tweeted, I guess this is really it then. On June 20th, he posted, might as well die now. Skipping ahead, on August 20th, he tweeted, you're going to piss me off, and then some shit's going to go down, and I don't think you'll like it. You're not gonna like what happens next. I hate that I can't live without you. By late September, his tweets seemed to reflect issues in his relationship. Then, on October 20th, he posted, all right, you got me. That broke me. The following day, October 21st, he wrote a series of tweets which read, it breaks me, it actually does. I know it seems like I'm sweating it off, but I'm not, and I never will be able to. I should have listened. You were right the whole time. You were right. That was essentially the extent of his social media activity before the tragic events that followed. The morning of October 24th, 2014. In a later interview, Jaylen's parents, Raymond and Wendy, described the events leading up to that morning. Raymond left for work as usual, while Wendy drove Jaylen to school. Along the way, they picked up Wendy's niece and dropped her off at her school as well. According to Wendy, the car ride was uneventful. She dropped Jaylen off at around 7:30 a.m. Neither of Jaylen's parents had any further contact with him until about 3 hours later, when they received a text from him, one that I'll discuss shortly. That same morning, just minutes before the shooting, Jaylen sent his cousin a Facebook message containing a photo of a firearm resting between his legs. Along with the photo, he wrote, quote, have Shailene call me before I do this. Some sources claim that Shailene did call him, and they spoke for a few minutes. Others, however, report that she only attempted to call him after she learned of the tragic events that unfolded. It's unclear which account is accurate. If Shailene did call Jaylen, I was never able to find out what was said during their conversation. Regardless, at 10:38 a.m., after learning about Jaylen's concerning message from her cousin, Shailene decided to text him. She wrote, quote, your number is blocked. Leave me the expletive alone, and I will be texting Dad and letting him know about your whole killing yourself situation. Unfortunately, Shailene's message came too late. Jaylen would never respond. Earlier that morning, Jaylen had been texting his group of friends, urging them to meet him in the school cafeteria for lunch. Despite some initial hesitation from a few of them, he convinced them to skip class to hang out. The group included his two cousins, 15-year-old Andrew Fryberg and 14-year-old Nate Hatch, as well as his friends, 14-year-old Zoe Galasso, 14-year-old Gia Soriano, and 14-year-old Shay Chutkal Nasset. Also sitting at the table were another cousin, Karen Parks, and another friend, Carmen Lopez. There was originally supposed to be one more person joining them, but fortunately, they decided not to skip class. At 10:37 a.m., just moments before the tragedy unfolded, Jaylen sent a final text to his father that read, quote, read the note on my bed, Dad. I love you. A few seconds later, Jaylen sent a mass text to multiple family members. While much of the content in the message was redacted, the overall message was clear. It read, quote, my funeral. My .270 Winchester goes to blank and blank, referring to his .270 Winchester rifle. My 17 HMR goes to blank, referring to another rifle. I want to be fully dressed in camo in my casket, brand new, expensive-ass camo. I don't want my family to cancel their trip in December. Tell blank that I love her with all my heart, if I don't call her. It's assumed he was referring to Shailene, but this cannot be confirmed. The message continued. My dog's name has to be blank, because blank's name is blank. That's why I picked it. I know my parents thought it was because that's where she was from, but it's not. I want my freshman team to play their asses off next Wednesday. Tell blank he'll always be my bro. Always put my hat with the S on it on me in my casket. Put an insulin bag in my casket with me and burn one for me. Jaylen's message continued. I want mine, Andrew's, and blank's graves to be lined up. Apologize to blank's parents and tell them that I didn't want to go alone. Who would be better to go with than the one and only blank? Make sure all of my trust money or whatever I have goes to my brother, blank. My phone password is 4526. It stands for I love blank. Also, Apologize to Andrew's family and Blank's family for me taking them with me, but I needed my ride or dies with me on the other side. And to all my other friends, if they get caught in this tomorrow, Zoe Galasso, blank, Gia Soriano, blank, and Shay Chutkal Nasset, I don't know. They'll all be lying next to each other. Once again, tell blank I love her with all my heart. Please ask blank not to be with blank at all. That is my last dying wish. To my parents, give blank all of your attention. Don't you dare tell him no. If he doesn't want to go to school, let him stay home. Just don't tell him no. I love all of my family. I hope you all know that. Tell blank not to be with blank. Tell her my last wish is for her not to talk to him at all and not to be with him. Some parts of the message are confusing. If Jaylen was indeed having issues with his cousin Andrew, he didn't seem to mention anything about it here. Jaylen then listed the songs he wanted played at his funeral. It needs to be poppin'. Play the Randy Wood and the Kevin Yazzie first, and play the poppin' songs next. Ask blank for some poppin' to play. The message continued. Make sure everyone's family goes to Graham's for dinner. I need you guys to make that happen. It needs to happen. You guys need to invite everyone's parents over to Graham's for a big dinner. You guys need to cook all that deer meat Graham canned and the meat that's in the downstairs freezer at our house. The text concluded with, I love you, family. I really do, more than anything. Tell blank the same. I needed to do this, though. I wasn't happy, and I need my crew with me, too. I'm sorry. I love you. 2 minutes after Fryberg sent the text to his family members, he carried out his fatal plan. At this time, his family was frantically trying to contact him after receiving his disturbing message. When the group was finally together, the exact sequence of events varies depending on the account. Some reports suggest that Fryberg confronted his cousin Andrew about the recent issues between them, leading to a brief argument. However, another witness sitting nearby recalled hearing Fryberg ask one of the girls out, who declined, which may have pushed him over the edge. Regardless of the exact trigger, most accounts agree that some form of conflict preceded the attack. However, it's possible that no matter what transpired within the group that day, Fryberg had already decided on his course of action. It was evident that he had been planning something sinister for some time. It is important to note that despite these claims, Nate, who was seated at the table, later stated that there was no argument before the shooting. According to him, Jaylen simply began the attack without provocation. The drastic differences in accounts could be attributed to the chaos in the cafeteria at the time, as well as the way trauma affects memory recall. It wouldn't be surprising if some bystanders misheard or misremembered the events. Jaylen then reached into his backpack, pulled out a Beretta PX-4 Storm, stood up, and began firing at his friends. Based on police reports, I did my best to recreate the shooting in an animated sequence. Let me know if this is something you'd like to see more often. Jaylen proceeded to shoot nearly everyone at the table, aiming for their heads one by one in a clockwise direction. He attempted to shoot all 7 friends, but ultimately hit only 5 of them. According to official police reports, the seating arrangement at the time was as follows. Starting from Jaylen and moving clockwise, Shailene, Zoe, Andrew, Nate, and then Gia. To his right sat Karen and Carmen, though their exact seating order is unclear. Zoe Galasso was tragically killed instantly, while the other 4 victims were critically injured. Fortunately, Karen and Carmen were unharmed. Karen immediately fled from the table, while Carmen instinctively dropped to the ground before escaping. Jaylen's family was unaware that he had already taken his own life. At least 2 of the victims had suffered such severe head injuries that they were not immediately identifiable. Investigators had to work closely with the victims' families, gathering details such as birthmarks and the clothing they were wearing to confirm their identities. Tragically, despite the hospital's efforts, 3 of the 4 injured victims did not survive. Gia Soriano, 14, passed away 2 days after the shooting, on October 26, 2014. 5 days later, on October 31, 2014, Shailene Chuckle-Nasket, 14, also succumbed to her injuries. Finally, Andrew Fryberg, 15, passed away 2 weeks after the shooting. The only survivor of the attack was Nate Hatch, 14, who had been shot in the face. The bullet shattered his jaw and then ricocheted, lodging in his chest. Fortunately, it did not cause fatal damage. He remained in the hospital in serious condition for some time, but after undergoing surgery to repair his jaw, he made a full recovery. Following his recovery, Nate later posted on social media, quote, "I love you and I forgive you, Jaylen. Rest in peace." According to official reports, in a later interview, Carmen Lopez, who had also been at the table but was uninjured, revealed that she and Jaylen had recently begun dating. If the rumors about Andrew flirting with someone Jaylen was involved with were true, it is possible that Carmen was the person being referenced. Additionally, Carmen may have been the same girl Jaylen had been messing around with at and after the homecoming dance. While the girl's name was redacted from the official report, other details suggest she was likely the one Nate had been referring to. Carmen also stated that she had spoken with Jaylen earlier on the day of the shooting, and that he had seemed completely normal. Not only that, but Jaylen had spent time at her house in the 2 days leading up to the attack, and she noticed no signs that anything was wrong. However, when students and teachers reflected on the days before the shooting, some recalled that Jaylen had begun acting strangely. Many reported that he had started skipping classes just days before carrying out his attack. Jaylen also appeared to be generally disinterested in his schoolwork, often opting to listen to music in class instead. On the morning of the shooting, he was observed resting his head on his desk for an entire class period. However, many students reported that he had been acting completely normal, even that morning. Some said they noticed no drastic change in his personality and had no idea that anything was wrong. Authorities interviewed several students who were in the cafeteria during the shooting. One boy, who had been sitting at a nearby table, recalled hearing the gunshots. When he looked over, he saw Jaylen shoot someone, whom he didn't recognize, in the head. The student immediately dove to the floor to protect himself. Another student, who was good friends with Jaylen, told police that he had spoken with him earlier that day in a class they shared. He stated that Jaylen seemed more depressed than usual, keeping his head down for most of the class, but nothing he did or said indicated what he had planned for later that day. This same student was in the cafeteria at the time of the shooting and watched as Jaylen shot his friends before fleeing. Many witnesses claimed that Jaylen carried out the attack in a calm and methodical manner. One in particular recalled that Jaylen's face had a completely blank expression as he fired at his friends and relatives. There were numerous witness statements, too many to include them all, but these examples provide insight into how those present experienced the tragic event. It was later discovered that almost immediately after the shooting, Jaylen's family attempted to log into his social media accounts to delete his recent posts. This information was documented in the police report. Though as far as investigators could tell, his family was ultimately unable to gain access to his accounts. Naturally, police wanted to speak with Jaylen's parents following the incident. When officers asked Jaylen's father, Raymond, where he might have gotten the gun, Raymond stated that he kept a Beretta PX-4 Storm, along with an extra magazine, in the center console of his truck, but he was unsure if it was missing. According to Jaylen's father, if Jaylen were to take a gun, it would most likely be that one out of all the firearms he had access to. If you recall, Jaylen had texted his father about a note left on his bed just before the attack. However, no such note was ever recovered. While it's possible that he simply never left one, Nate Fryberg claimed that his brother had sent him a Snapchat picture of a long, handwritten note they had found at the house. Some believe that Jaylen's family may have intentionally withheld the note from authorities, though that remains speculation. Ultimately, you can form your own conclusions on that matter. What's clear, however, is that no one seemed to recognize the warning signs. In hindsight, it is blatantly obvious that Jaylen's mental health was rapidly deteriorating, given the texts, Snapchats, and tweets he had been posting. His emotional decline was evident, yet no one in his life saw this coming. Of course, hindsight is always 20/20. In a tragic twist, this horrific event may have been preventable. Shockingly, a substitute teacher named Rosemary Cooper, who had been covering for another teacher the day before the attack, was warned by a student that a shooting would happen soon. According to reports, students across the school had been talking about a social media post that claimed a shooting would take place in the cafeteria at 10 a.m. While I was unable to track down this specific post, multiple sources referenced it. What remains unclear is, if so many students were discussing it, how did the attack still take place? Additionally, Jaylen had allegedly sent text messages to a few people mentioning that he was planning to kill himself. According to Cooper, she shared her concerns with another faculty member and left a note for the teacher she was substituting for. However, during the investigation, authorities were unable to verify any of this information. They found no record of a faculty member being informed, and no note was ever recovered. As a result, the families of the victims filed lawsuits, with survivor Carmen Lopez filing a similar suit. Interestingly, in 2016, Rosemary Cooper sought therapy, and during the lawsuit, notes from 2 of her therapists were presented as evidence. One therapist's notes stated that Cooper was feeling guilty that, prior to the shooting, a student showed her a text message where the perpetrator had texted that he was going to kill himself. However, the student said not to worry, and Cooper did not follow up with staff. Another note from the therapist revealed that Cooper had mentioned the concerning text to someone but did not feel she needed to make a report, as she assumed that if her students knew about it, then so must everyone else. Cooper was filled with regret that she did not explicitly report what she had heard. She felt that had she spoken up, the outcome may have been different. It is deeply shocking that someone in a teaching position would not take such a serious threat more seriously. Knowing that 4 innocent lives might have been saved had she simply spoken up is gut-wrenching. As far as I could gather, the school district settled the lawsuit with the victims' families for $18 million in 2017. Rosemary Cooper wasn't the only adult held accountable for their actions, though. Following the shooting, Jaylen's father, Jaylen Fryberg, was arrested and charged with possession of illegal firearms. Back in 2002, Raymond had been the subject of a domestic violence protection order, which legally prohibited him from purchasing or owning a firearm. However, during the investigation into the shooting, authorities discovered that Jaylen Fryberg had filled out at least 10 federal forms while purchasing firearms and had never once disclosed that he was legally barred from owning them. One of the guns he illegally purchased was the Beretta PX-4, the same firearm Jaylen Fryberg used to shoot 5 people, kill 4 of his closest friends, and ultimately take his own life. Raymond's lawyers argued that he had never been personally served with a protection order and was therefore unaware that he was prohibited from owning firearms. Despite this, Raymond was convicted on 6 counts of illegal firearm possession and was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. What baffles me is how Raymond was able to simply withhold this information, and that was enough for him to buy firearms. Shouldn't there have been a flag on his record preventing him from purchasing guns in the first place? This kind of oversight is infuriating. So many small actions could have been taken to prevent this attack, and it's incredibly frustrating that nothing was done. Now let's move on to the baffling response following the massacre. It's normal for a community to set up memorials for the victims of such a tragic event. What isn't common, however, is for the shooter to be honored alongside his victims. Yet that's exactly what happened in this case. The entire situation is deeply unsettling to me. It's one thing to forgive the shooter, but that's not what happened here. Instead, the community began including Jaylen in the memorials, with many people praising him on social media. One post read, quote, "Don't you dare speak badly of Jaylen. He is loved and will always be loved. He just wasn't in the right state of mind. I love him." Another person wrote, quote, "I can guarantee that all the people saying Jaylen went to hell didn't know him personally." Some students at Marysville-Pilchuck High School even wore shirts that said Team Jaylen. Thankfully, the school shut this down and asked students to remove the shirts, recognizing how disrespectful it was to the victims and their families to openly honor a killer. As if that wasn't strange enough, people continued to defend him. I even saw one student post on social media which read, quote, "To the guy at Walmart who just looked at my shirt and said, 'I'm sorry you went to school with a psychopath. I'll pray for you.' However, despite the school not condoning students wearing Team Jaylen shirts, they still included him in the yearbook, featuring pictures of him on the football team and at the homecoming dance. Maybe they were obligated to do so for some reason, but it still seems odd. There were countless other memorial posts honoring Jaylen, but I think you get the point. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is Shaylene's response. 7 days after the shooting, on October 31st, 2014, Shaylene posted a tweet that read, quote, "I love you, Jaylen Ray, with all I have. You will forever be my soulmate. Rest easy, baby boy." About 5 months later, Shaylene made a post that read, Jaylen Ray, I love you and I miss you so much, babe. On the 2-year anniversary of the shooting, October 24th, 2016, she posted, "Not a day goes by, Jay. You're so beautiful. Fly high, baby." Then, on July 20th, 2017, she tweeted, quote, "Why the hell doesn't anyone realize I'm always going to love Jaylen? I will love him for the rest of my damn life." She continued posting about him over the years. But since most of the posts were repetitive, I won't list them all. At some point she had a baby, and interestingly, gave her the middle name Jay. I didn't dig too deeply into her social media, but from what I gathered, she hasn't posted about Jaylen in years, or at least not as frequently. Many of her tweets memorializing Jaylen received overwhelmingly supportive responses. I completely understand forgiving someone and choosing not to let a tragedy consume your life. However, to me, this entire situation is bizarre. In my opinion, Jaylen Fryberg does not deserve to be honored in death. He took the lives of 4 incredible people and shattered their families. No matter how popular or well-liked he was in life, none of that matters after committing an act like this. While his mental health clearly played a role in his actions, that does not excuse what he did, nor does it relieve him of responsibility. Now, I want to dedicate the remainder of this video to the 4 people who deserve to be remembered and cherished. Unlike many cases, I'm happy to report that I was able to find a wealth of information on each victim. Zoe Rain Galasso. Zoe was born on February 22, 2000, and was 14 years old at the time of her death. According to her family, Zoe was incredibly loving, not just toward her friends and family, but also toward animals. Her mother believed that Zoe may have gone on to become a veterinarian if she had the chance. She loved spending time with friends, live music, and going on road trips. Zoe had a bright, happy personality that everyone who knew her adored. Zoe was athletic, but had a particular love for soccer. She was also artistic and enjoyed creating things. Her mother recalls that she had a wild, playful spirit and a contagious laugh that could light up any room. Zoe's mother, Michelle, wrote a book titled My Rainbow to Keep, which details her experience of losing her beloved daughter. I'll have it linked in the description for anyone interested in checking it out. It appears to be a beautifully written book about grief and healing after the loss of a loved one. Zoe will always be remembered as the funny, happy, spunky, and friendly girl that she was. Gia Christine Serrano. Gia was also only 14 years old when she passed away. Her birthday was March 31st, 2000. Like Zoe, she was a warm and loving soul, with a special affinity for children and animals. Although she was soft-spoken, she was far from shy, and people were naturally drawn to her gentle and kind-hearted nature. Her family described her as having a beautiful smile and always being willing to lend a helping hand to those in need. One of her cousins, Gabby, fondly recalled the many cherished memories they shared together. Gia was always eager to pass down wisdom to her younger cousin and help guide her through life. Gia will forever be remembered for her unwavering kindness and delightful personality. She will never be forgotten. Shailene Adele Chuckle Naskett. Shailene was born on March 26, 2000, and was also 14 years old at the time of her passing. By all accounts, she was incredibly outgoing and a joy to be around. She had an amazingly confident personality and was known for being silly, persistent, fearless, and forgiving. One of her family's fondest memories is how Shailene would take selfies on all of their phones, leaving them with countless treasured pictures to look back on. While she deeply loved her friends, her true love was her family, with whom she shared a very close bond. Her relatives have nothing but incredible things to say about her, and she will always be loved and missed. Shailene will be remembered as the exceptional, fun-loving young woman that she was. Andrew Martin Leroy Fryberg. Andrew was the only 15-year-old victim and was born on August 10, 1999. He was the firstborn boy in his immediate family, and his relatives fondly recall how all the girls in the family would do anything for him. Like the other victims, Andrew was known for his kindness and was deeply protective of his family and friends. Andrew was extremely athletic, participating in football and wrestling. He also had a love for the outdoors and spent much of his time four-wheeling, hanging out with friends, or relaxing on the water. Andrew will always be remembered for his caring nature, adventurous spirit, and unbreakable love for those closest to him. Andrew will never be forgotten and will always be remembered for his caring and fun-loving personality. I hope that each and every one of the victims is resting peacefully, and I sincerely wish nothing but the best for their friends and families. From everything I've read about them, it's clear that they were all incredibly special individuals who, in no way, deserved what happened to them. Each of these four wonderful kids had a bright future ahead of them, one they will tragically never get to experience. It breaks my heart to think about all the missed opportunities they will never have, all because of one selfish and evil act. They are no longer here simply because someone couldn't stand to be alone. Jaylen admitted it himself in his text messages. He felt the need to take others with him to satisfy his own twisted desires. He was truly a deeply disturbed individual. To everyone who stuck around and listened to this entire video, I genuinely appreciate you. I hope you learned something new, whether or not you had heard of this case before. Wishing you all a wonderful rest of your day. See you next time.